you don't like our religion, then we don't want you in our country.
Perhaps the most amusing argument from the Trump camp is that somehow Joe Biden is responsible for all of Donald Trump's troubles.
Make no mistake about it. I'm here because of crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of our country.
But, maybe Pouty Fugwinkle has a point. Maybe all of Trump's behavior, from his Russian money to Stormy Daniels, from his 2 impeachments to his rape conviction, are all Biden's fault.
4 years to think about the way he performed, now 4 years of President Biden. But some of them will always now have this vision with President Trump that these kinds of dramas and things will be just part of his package, part of what comes with him as president.
It's called extortion. Extortion is something that happens with people when they are powerful, when they are strong-voiced, and when people listen to them. It is a natural consequence of being a very effective human being in this unfortunate culture that we have. It is litigious. That is what America has become. And Joe Biden, unfortunately, can't really do anything in office, so he's got to use the same means as somebody who's just trying to have a quick slip and fall and make money. And that is frankly what we're seeing right now. This is exactly a Biden show because he's got to distract the American people. Listen.
But the Biden administration is not responsible for this trial.
How can you say the Biden administration is not responsible for this trial?
It's a state trial. It's Alvin Bragg. Whether you think there's a political motive for him, it's not connected to the DOJ. I mean,
Shannon,
the feds passed on these election charges.
Shannon, you should look at how many logs they have of state officials, Letitia James, Fani Willis, visiting the White House, and then tell me that this is not a Biden trial. I don't care.
The feds pass on this case is the point I'm making.
Right. The feds pass on this case. Also, DA Cy Vance passed on this case. And
years
frankly,
ago, and then it came back.
And Bragg passed on this case. You know when it came back? When he decided to run for office. Mm-hmm. So tell me how that's not an indication that Joe Biden, who just sent his campaign down here with Robert De Niro yesterday, isn't a part of this. Frankly, any question that we had of that was squashed yesterday. And if you have even more concerns about whether he's involved in this, look at the fact that he is publicizing, literally publicizing, for tonight to have a speech if a verdict comes out. That's a sad state of affairs. Meanwhile, our country is falling apart. He's got bigger fish to fry.
I'm no shrink, but that is some kind of transference psychology. Trump is his own creation, and everything he faces in court can't be Joe.
Let's say a very different Joe Biden. I might call him Jacked Up Joe.
I mean, I know they have Biden on the same drug cocktail that the Incredible Hulk was on.
Hulk, stop, little man!
But how can Biden be a doddering, senile old man who can't find his way out of a room, but also be the mastermind behind all of Trump's troubles? But you know the answer, right? Trump is like that dog you leave at home and return and everything in your house looks like the backseat of Steve Bannon's car. And for what it's worth, the federal cases had grand juries, a couple dozen people who don't look anything like Joe Biden, who handed down the indictments based on facts before them, or state crimes that the federal government has no say whatsoever. But that doesn't stop the whiny little bitches in the Trump camp, from Crazy Jr.
The Inflation Reduction of violence of January 6th. I hope Trump comes.
I'm gonna punch him out. This is my moment. I've been waiting for this.
To Caucasian Eric.
And I cannot wait for the day that we win. We will. We're right. The entire country knows that this is nonsense.
What the hell did you just say?
We win. We will. We're right.
To his lawyers and the right-wing flank in Congress and on Fox. To listen to them, Trump hasn't done anything wrong in his entire life.
I've said from day one, this is a political stunt.
Attacking Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg over the unprecedented indictment of a former president on criminal charges.
I have zero trust that this will play out fairly.
Mr. President!
Though that didn't stop one congressman to claim the prosecutor could have indicted the ham sandwiches he was handing out on Capitol Hill.
So I know how to spot a pile of garbage, and this thing looks like a pile of garbage.
Even without seeing the evidence, you're certain he's innocent.
I'm not certain of anything except this. This is the first time in the history of the country we've indicted a president. And the fact that, he's just now announced and they rolled this thing out, it smells pretty fishy.
Top Republicans agree, despite not seeing the charges.
Aren't you jumping to conclusions? I mean, he might have broken the law. Does that concern you?
We don't think President Trump broke the law at all.
It's fascinating to see the Republicans deflect blame from Trump. They blame DAs and prosecutors for the timing and the judge for his bias. But of course, they say nothing about Trump appointee Judge Cannon and her delay of the document case, which effectively means Trump won't face a trial before the election, and the not-so-Supreme Court's delay while they consider whether or not Trump should have immunity to shoot political opponents.
Order someone to assassinate him. Is that within his official acts for which he
can get immunity?
It would depend on the hypothetical, but we can see that could well be an official act.
And the latest, where Judge Alito and his wife displayed solidarity with the insurrection, and Clarence Thomas's wife, a former cult member who was there on January the 6th. That might have been her right there.
That is crazy.
But here's the crazy part. Every time Trump's tribe defends him, they make Trump look worse, especially when it came to defense witnesses in the trial. While the defense attacked Cohen and made some salient points about his past, their witnesses made Cohen look like Mother Teresa.
The contrast with Michael Cohen, I think, is going to be really good for the prosecution, because there are things that Costello is sort of denying and making Susan Hoffinger, the ADA, sort of have to work for, which are clearly the case. Like, didn't you think this would be something where you would now be aligned with President Trump and Rudy Giuliani, and this would be good for you because of, like, they're in high places? No. I mean, it's like, come on. I mean, so I just think that, and his behavior with the judge, I mean, this is just not how respectable lawyers behave, or at least that's what the jury could find at the end of this. Whereas you had Michael Cohen really just sort of an exemplary performance.
And Fox has shown since January the 6th that they will shill for Trump at every turn, as they did when they pushed the stolen election BS and then the insurrection. It's so transparent that it's almost funny. And of course, the Smartmatic BS lie that cost them nearly $1 billion. But here's the point of all of this. Trump's allies on Fox, in Congress, and his single-digit IQ crowds are dangerous. Trump's followers are a disenfranchised lot, like cult members who aren't allowed to hear anything that threatens the cult. Even family members drink the Kool-Aid, believing there's a conspiracy behind all of Trump's problems.
I have zero confidence in the fact that this person, who should not be sitting on the bench right now, will do the right thing and give jury instructions that are in an appropriate manner without any persuasion towards the prosecution. There's my biggest concern. It always has been. So now you've held jurors for 5 weeks. We've been sitting here. We saw no facts. And the last resort for the prosecution is going to be this judge with political motivations going to give them instructions on how to decide the fate of a former president and the future president.
What's happening here is Fox and Republicans are presenting two very distinct yet insane arguments. First, they will deny every act that Trump has done as either something guys do in a locker room or as something that the media has lied about, like the Russians in the 2016 election, when every intelligence agency in the U.S. and England and France all agreed that Russia not only hacked the DNC emails, they began a campaign of disinformation on Facebook. The Republicans then denied it happened, except when Trump asked Russians to do it again.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
But the denial of who Trump really is the poison here.
Extortion is something that happens with people when they are powerful, when they are strong-voiced, and when people listen to them. It is a natural consequence of being a very effective human being in this unfortunate culture that...
I have to stop right there. A very effective human being? Pah! Trump is barely a human being. He defrauded a children's cancer charity. He cheated on his wife after the birth of their son with an adult film star. He bragged about sexually assaulting women, and he has turned on no fewer than a dozen former aides and allies and friends, calling them scum and crooked. I used to argue with Republicans during Reagan's tenure, but how could I have known where we were headed? If I made a list of Trump's accomplishments while president, I'd be done before I finished this sentence. Trump has caused permanent damage to the psyche of not just Americans, but the world. Trust in each other has become the new cryptocurrency. Here 1 minute, gone the next. And the irony is the GOP, who called us snowflakes, are now the weak-kneed little boys currying favor from this sagging ball sack. Regardless of the verdict, justice will find Trump, and it will deliver what he has coming. Either in a courtroom or in one of his cholesterol-filled fatty vessels, fruitlessly looking for a heart. He didn't have one then, and he doesn't have one now.
I want to be a dictator.
This isn't their Republican Party anymore. Am I wrong?
Damn right.
We're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I'm Chip Franklin.